Supposedly contains red mercury inside of it, and it was found in Egypt, and it can do strange things. This, for example, is what the man is going to experiment right now with the water bottle. He approaches the rock, see what happens. Now he's going to experiment with the bottle of Coca-Cola, and this is what happens. Check this out. Now, red mercury is supposedly a substance that does not exist. It was technically used in the 40s to produce atomic bombs or something like that. Check this out. However, it was never proved that it existed.
Is it the key element behind the ancient technology of these advanced architecture? As we can see here, red mercury is repelled by garlic and attracted by gold magnetically. When a mirror is placed beside it, colorless in the mirror, it has no reflection, it gives off free energy, overheats the metals that it comes in contact with. Many electronic valve devices have RM ampules found in the throat of the ancient Egyptian mummies, so it has healing prosperities, it has health benefits. Is it vampire blood? Well, no, it's red mercury. The whole vampire blood repelled by garlic and then having no reflection.
Dulce is 260 kilometers from Scientology's heavily guarded underground Trementina base. And Dulce is 200 kilometers from Jeffrey Epstein's Zorro Ranch, which is known to have an 8,000 square foot underground level and is rumored to lead even deeper underground. According to several prominent scientists who Jeffrey Epstein had as guests, Epstein hoped to seed the human race after a cataclysm by impregnating 20 women at a time at the Zorro Ranch. According to Bajorkness, the Kabbalistic teachings include a geocentric model of the Earth with an underworld that extends 7 levels beneath the surface, where a reptilian species lives. These legends foretell a cleansing of the Earth when everyone on the surface will perish, and only those in the underworld will survive. She did wake up once paralyzed on a lab table and witnessed Epstein shapeshift into something else.
You know, and I still want to know why exactly I was taken there, because there's a lot more weird stuff going on, because, you know, I didn't see any girls getting trafficked to other men. So there's something else that they were doing.
That's fascinating in itself, and we have a lot of talk, and this doesn't get spoken about that much, but it's the kind of cloning DNA part that he was, obviously transhumanism, that he was interested in. Did that come up anywhere? Did you see any signs?
Well,
I mean, obviously there's scientists.
I'm just going to put it out there right now. I woke up in a laboratory there one night.
Wow.
You know, these are the things I haven't wanted to talk about because it's frightening. But there were scientists there, you know, and I woke up one night in a laboratory, paralyzed and naked on a table. I would like to be lie detected on this. You know, there are other weird things that I saw. I saw Epstein shift in front of my eyes. It was very, very frightening, and it's just something that I had to explain to myself because I saw him turn into something.
This man found something very strange in Egypt in 1988, and I'm not surprised we have heard nothing about it since. So his name is Gregor Spori. He is Swiss. He's a researcher. He's an author. He's an archaeologist. He's like Indiana Jones. Listen to what he did. He met with a group in Cairo, and these guys were grave robbers, and the word had spread that they found something really interesting, and he wanted to get it off them. What they handed him in a bundle of rags would change the course of his life. He unrolled the bag and found a 16-inch giant mummified finger. You can even see the bone sticking out the other end. A 16-inch finger, they did the math, it would make the creature that had this finger be 16 feet tall. And this is a mural that was in a pyramid in Sudan with a giant holding 2 elephants. It could just be cool artwork, it could be metaphorical. But all I know is an elephant's longer than 16 feet probably.
Oh, it's more of those little spirals that we seen earlier. You see them? Look. Yep, right there. So what's this that same hurricane? Get that though. Whoa.
my friends, no time to waste here. Did you know that the United States has multiple patents on how to steer and control hurricanes and tornadoes? Yes, this is very real and it's backed by sources, as well as our own NOAA website, which discusses weather manipulation and what steps you or I would have to take in order to do our own weather manipulation. My friends, this is no joke. Many people believe that weather manipulation was used for Hurricane Helene, then somehow coincidentally stalled over the rare lithium-producing towns of Western and North Carolina, which is the exact location of the largest lithium deposit we have in the United States. Now, something to keep in mind while moving forward, ever since we left Afghanistan, we have lost the ability to mine lithium there, where most of it used to come from. Now we are stuck having to fill this insane demand we have for this lithium right here in the United States. Once again, the largest deposit being right over the towns that just got completely destroyed by this hurricane. Alright, so before I tie this all up with this lithium situation, this video you're looking at right now went super viral over the last few days. We have over 3 million views on this clip here, where we are talking about these weird anomalies that were taking place right before landfall of Hurricane Helene. There's a lot of controversy about what's going on here, but these things pointed directly to where we saw landfall. Not only that, but we saw some weird scalar looking beams in there, a lot of weird stuff that we were breaking down, and it's causing a lot of talk about this situation, which is the point here. We've already established that weather manipulation exists, but I want you to take a look at this website from 2007, my friends. That's 17 years ago. And it came out from the Telegraph. It says, "Scientists a step closer to steering hurricanes." Now, in this article, they explain how they are using technology in order to control, manipulate, and steer these types of storms, including tornadoes. So when you take things like this, and you also add these patents that have been out for decades, you begin to see a picture being painted of what is really going on. Now, this isn't to say that every bit of weather is manipulated and controlled. It means that they have the capability of doing this, and it's right in your face. Now, I can't say for sure that Hurricane Helene was controlled by this type of technology, but it certainly looked like it was, and it certainly did epic, record-breaking damage that we have not seen in any of our lifetimes. So this will come down to you making your own conclusions and taking the data and making your own educated decisions on what you're seeing. We are in a place in history where it's almost impossible to be able to trust our own media or government, and I don't need to go over explanations on why that is. So now that we have all these steps in place, think about the situation as a whole. This wild hurricane comes barreling towards Florida, and we suspected that once this thing got close to land, it would rapidly intensify, and that's exactly what it did. And in my opinion, the reason that happened is because once it got close enough to our NEXRAD radar towers, it was then able to be influenced, as I've shown in many videos. Alright, now finally, I just want to conclude with this. 1 year ago, almost to the day, as you can see in this article, North Carolina lithium mine to reopen with $90 million Pentagon order to help increase U.S. production. My friends, if this is not screaming to you right now, I don't know what else can. Just take a look at how much lithium we've used year to year up to 2024, and then once again ask yourself, what are the chances that this flood takes place in the biggest spot in the United States that we can even mine this stuff? My friends, the information's there, it's been there, and if you don't go check it out now, it might not be there forever. I appreciate you all. I'm praying for every single person affected by this storm. What we are seeing out there is absolute tragedy, and it seriously makes my heart break.
I had asked a question about this picture of President Nixon talking to the crew of Apollo 11 when they landed on the moon, and I asked, how does he have a framed picture of Earth from the moon taken from that flight if he's talking to them live? In case you missed that video, yes, NASA has it shown as Apollo 11 took that picture. For the most part, some of you guys were right. There's actually two different photos. This one's from Apollo 8, which never landed on the moon. This one's from Apollo 11, from them standing on the moon. So there's two different pictures. This is the one from Apollo 8 that was in Nix's office. This one clearly was not because it was happening then. But let's really look at these photos. Think about it. This one was taken from Apollo 8, circling the moon at 3,700 miles an hour, 10 miles above the moon, through a window thick enough to make it through the Van Allen belt without exploding. This one was taken from Apollo 11, standing on the moon. Wow, that guy must have really been a good photographer to pull that off, all things considered, huh? But here's my biggest question about that photo, or these photos. They're clearly taken on the horizon. So if you're standing there, you have to be looking along the land surface to see the horizon of the moon, to see the Earth rise, right? Well, check this out. Let's just say that this logo is the face of the moon. We know that the face of the moon, when it circles Earth, faces Earth all the time. We only see one side of the moon forever and always. According to NASA, all flights that went to the moon landed right there in the Sea of Tranquility, on the face of the moon, on the sunny side of the moon. If that face is facing us all the time, why would Earth rise over the horizon? Wouldn't it be directly overhead, straight up? Directly overhead, straight up? Directly overhead, straight up?
This is Stanley Kubrick, and this is NASA and the Apollo logo. Here is Stanley Kubrick, and this is Neil Armstrong, the first man walking the moon. There is a model of the lunar lander. There's Stanley Kubrick. Here you got NASA, astronauts, and Stanley Kubrick at the top of the set. Here they are simulating low gravity with wires around their suits. Here they are building the lunar lander. And there is Werner von Braun entering the lunar lander. Again, Stanley Kubrick from the back, and there is the set at the television. The lunar lander again, and the set with the astronaut. Now take a look. This is the footprint of the moon, the first footprint. And Stanley Kubrick is right there, analyzing the work. Here is Neil Armstrong, here is Stanley Kubrick. Stanley Kubrick and Apollo 11 logo there. There is Stanley Kubrick, and there is the Apollo 11 logo on the camera. Here is Stanley Kubrick examining the first footprint of the man walking on the moon, Neil Armstrong. There is Stanley Kubrick and a set with an astronaut on wires. Here is Stanley Kubrick from the front. There is another view of the set with a lunar model and operators in front of a huge moon model and an operator with camera. Artists who are painting the moonscape on huge canvas. Another view of the moon simulator and an operator in front of. Rails for a moving camera, filming the models to simulate approaching the moon surface, while the models were on the left and on the right side of the rails, and the canvas was on the top. Here the camera is filming the top, so the canvas on rails. Artists are painting the canvas, and there is the canvas hanging from the top side. So the moving camera on rails below this canvas can film this, and this is what it looks like. Here is the moving camera on rails, filming the canvas.
The James Webb Telescope had spotted an armada of alien ships heading toward Earth at near light speed.
And the reason they're saying it's technically alien spaceships is because a meteor doesn't course correct. And apparently this fleet of city-sized objects was headed one direction and then course-corrected towards Earth. And if you're not aware, the James Webb Telescope is like our strongest telescope. It is specifically designed to look deep into space and time. It can see light that has traveled billions of years to reach us. And just to put that into perspective, it can see light 13.6 billion years ago. I know, that hurts my brain too. And some people believe that it's going to take years for this armada of alien spaceships to reach us, and some people think we're only weeks away. And if you were to ask most people, they'd probably say it's about time.
The gentleman with which I was associated was approximately 3.5 feet tall. He had a dark brown appearance, very ruddy appearance to his skin. He was in a highly pressurized clean sphere. 3.5 feet, large head in comparison to torso, large bulbous black eyes. The whites of the eyes had been selected out, so it looked like a large pupil, basically. When you look into his eyes, you feel like you're going to fall into his eyes forever. And I think that probably had something to do with the telepathic nature of his mental structure. He was hunched over most of the time, could not support himself fully, given muscular atrophy, and that had to do with the peripheral neuropathy under which he was suffering. He was unclothed, which bothered him. He wanted to wear clothing and was refused in every turn. Called himself captive, and justifiably so. His facial features were grotesque in comparison to what he showed me what normal would be. Nose was recessed, an extremely small mouth, a hard palate, no teeth.
Do you have any idea what his chronological age was?
622. They excrete in a manner that we would excrete. Their external genitalia are different than ours. The females have somewhat like vulva, but they have a clasper situation. The male has a male clasper, the female claspers. And if it looks like a disc with rectangular solids that are rotated into position for clasping at the inguinal region. They do have internal fertilization.
Now, this was something you read because you didn't see the female, did you?
No, this is something he showed me of his wife. Everything that he showed me when this was the incident. When he projected it into me, it felt like I was there. He was extremely depressed. If we were to term him human, I'm not a psychologist, but I think he would be termed as clinically depressed. He wept, but he didn't weep outside. He wept when he was with me.
Well, could you estimate what his level of intellect was?
He's smarter than me. He was smarter than me by a long range.
Did he have a wide range of knowledge?
The mathematics that he showed me blew my mind.
Was that right?
He showed me concurrently not only the equations for the rule of nines, but he also did so diagrammatically, and he did so with three-dimensional, like a VRML system, where I was watching cubes come together. Highly evolved, highly intellectual, highly repressed emotionally. When I was with him, I felt great happiness to be with him, but I could feel his great sadness, not only because of what he wanted to become, what he knew he was by being present with us, but where he was and how he was being treated. He was not part of the group that has to be catered to involving the T9 treaty that was just signed. He wanted to help. He was willing. When I went in, for God's sakes, I took well over, nearly 300 individualized aspiration samples from his neurological system. He would hold his arm out for me to take them. There was no pain medication. And whenever I would fire the introduction system to remove the sample, it was an aspirative avulsion system, he would cry. And then he would just stand there and look at me.
Paranoid conspiracy theorist Virginia home explodes after firing more than 30 flares at cops. Wow. Zootropolis? Never. It's Zootopia. 100%. 100% Zootopia. If I have my kids coming here right now, they would say Zootopia. What's that? UFO?
This fucking sun. This isn't the same sun that I grew up with, man. There's no way I stayed outside all day in this fucking sun. This is fucking different. I don't care. Anybody can tell me this motherfucker right here is a different sun than what I grew up with.
You guys are absolutely not going to believe this. Over the last couple of days, I've been coming across these glares from the sun, right? It's like in a honeycomb shape size. No way is this real. This is a sun simulator by Boeing that was talked about in 2020. Do you guys see this shape of it? It's literally the exact same shape as what people are seeing from the sun glare. Y'all ain't gonna believe it. The debunked video in 2020 talking about Boeing sun simulator is that exact shape. I am telling you people, over the last couple of days, it's a whole world of crazy. Hey, let's throw in the Schumann resonance. Have you guys been following and watching that? Yeah, so if you've been dealing with a lot of headaches, it's like, what's today? Today is the 14th. So if you have been dealing with a lot of headaches around the 13th, this is all from the 13th. So it's crazy enough that all of a sudden people are now recording a honeycomb glare from the sun. 2020 had a video talking about the Boeing sun simulator, which is in the exact same shape. And now we're going through a whole hell of a lot of crazy. Okay.
Did you know if you glue a magnet onto a Dremel like I've done here, with the poles facing outwards, so those black sides of the magnet are the north and south poles, and if you spin it really fast in the presence of another magnet here, you can actually get this magnet to levitate and not just sort of hover above the ground, but you can actually get it to lock in position relative to this magnet here. You want the pole of the other magnet to be facing upwards, either north or south, it doesn't matter. I find starting at a slow speed and slowly ramping it up works best.
I don't mean to brag, I don't care, but I want you to know, double vaxxed, booster, flu shot, and I'm going to be honest, I have the shingle shot too.
Okay.
And I still get my period. What? Yes! Traveled, went to Mexico twice, did shows, meet and greets, never got COVID. Clearly, Jesus loves me the most. Seriously. So nice. So nice.
Dang.
So nice. So nice.
Archaeologists confirmed there's something more under the Sphinx, and then they changed their minds. John Anthony West and Robert Shaw claimed in 1995 that they uncovered a network of previously unknown tunnels beneath the historical monument, from which the Egyptian authorities quickly banned them from continuing any research. And who was the main dude behind this move? None other than Zahi Hawass, who for the longest time was quite literally the gatekeeper of all findings surrounding the Egyptian pyramids. Former Antiquities Minister of Egypt, any discoveries about ancient Egypt had to go through this guy. He himself called the findings American hallucinations, effectively deeming them lies and misinformation. I sure know about that. But then in 1996, 1 year after the ban, the Egyptian government approves an excavation project around and under the Sphinx, led by Zahi Hawass. They even released promotional videos of Zahi entering tunnels beneath the Sphinx, something he had called absurd just a year earlier. In one clip, he even enters the Sphinx through a hole, goes deep into its subterranean caves, and claims that even Indiana Jones will never dream to be here. He goes on to say, all on record, we are now inside the Sphinx in this tunnel. This tunnel has never been opened before. No one really knows what's inside this tunnel, but we are going to open it for the first time. His words, all quoted on record by Mr. Gatekeeper himself, basically suggesting they had just uncovered the greatest archaeological finding of the century just a year after calling it misinformation. Then, 2 years later, out of nowhere, Hawass immediately shuts down the entire project and absolutely insists there's nothing down there.
And nothing is under the Sphinx at all. What you believe, it's nonsense.
What? He outright denies the existence of anything interesting found beneath the Sphinx, even though he literally recorded himself going into them and hyping them up just a few years earlier. There are even many well-documented reports that confirm there are holes that go into the Sphinx, like the one on top of its head, now sealed with concrete, or this one on the side here, which has since been blocked by giant stones. Here's Zahi himself on video curiously looking into a now sealed entrance that he claims has nothing to see. When asked about it, he just says they've already looked in all these holes and tunnels and there's nothing down there.
In the world of archaeology, the discovery of the Nazca mummies in Peru has long been a source of intrigue and debate. Unearthed near the famous Nazca lines, these mummified remains have baffled scientists, archaeologists, and historians alike. Unlike typical human remains, the Nazca mummies are characterized by their elongated skulls, three-fingered hands, and peculiar anatomical features that deviate significantly from the human norm. While initial studies were met with skepticism, new photographs uploaded online in 2024 have reignited interest in these mysterious archaeological finds. The latest images reportedly show what appear to be surgical metal implants embedded inside the heads of the mummies, sparking fresh speculation about their origin, purpose, and whether they represent evidence of an ancient, unknown civilization or even extraterrestrial life.
Oh, we've got your ass. We've got your ass now. The Great Wall of China? You mean the Great Wall of Tartaria? Let's take a look at a few old maps. You can see Grand Tartary in the green and China in the red. Let's take a closer look. As you can see, the wall is circled around China. And again, another Tartaria map, you can see the wall is circled around China. And if you notice, the steep side of the wall is facing China, making it hard for any invaders to climb up. And if you look closely, you will see that the lookout posts are facing China, making it easy to pick off your enemies with crossbows, one by one. So no, China didn't build that wall, the Tartarians did.
The history is a lie. This wall was not built to protect China from its enemies. It's the enemies which are in this side are protecting themselves from China. So, the Chinese did not build this wall. Who built this wall? I'll tell you, research the Tartarian Empire, which was in all this area, and they were defending themselves from the Chinese, not the other way around. History is a lie, geography is a lie, science is a lie, they lied to us.
Moors was in the league with the kings of Cathay. These kings of Cathay are the original so-called Mongols. Were the original so-called Mongols.
We're taught that Chicago was built in the 1800s, but there's so much with that narrative that doesn't add up that it leads us to believe that there's something that was left out of the official history books. In 1605, a map published in Venice shows North America with many old world cities. Notice that the symbol to represent these cities is some type of red castle. Supposedly at the time that this was written, there was no English-speaking settlements on the North American continent. In the middle of the continent, past the end of the St. Lawrence River, appears the name Shalaga. And we can see this in a variety of different maps. It's right in the exact same place that Chicago would appear, and obviously, the name is extremely close. In 1894, the Chicago Tribune actually mentioned Shalaga being on a map from 1615. Chicago or Shalaga on an old map. Quote, President Harper of the University of Chicago has lately received a quaint map of the world. This map was presented to President Harper by Dr. Charles Richter, the Imperial German Representative Commissioner to the World's Fair. Now isn't that interesting? It continues, the following letter of presentation accompanies the map. Quote, W.R. Harper, President of the University of Chicago, Dear Sir, when during the early preparatory stages of the exposition work efforts were made, mainly upon the investigation of Mr. Curtis to collect maps, supposition be correct, it is most likely on this map the name of Chicago in its original form appears for the first time, and it's on several maps in the 1500s. Many of the maps that show Shalaga closer south have been distorted as with the German plate, but there are maps that show it in its correct position. That Shalaga is actually accurately placed on Mercator's map, so there's obviously some type of cover-up going on. But this got me looking into the University of Chicago, and just take a look at this building, which was also graciously funded by John D. Rockefeller. So yeah, it's another castle, but just think about it. Why would the college try to cover up Shalaga? Well, it's because the officials, or those who were in control of Chicago at the time, were secret society orphans who had repopulated the city and educated the population. By this time in 1890, most of Chicago's population was transported in, and the people had no clue who actually built these structures. Just look at the University of Chicago's emblem in 1890. Looks like we have a griffin in flames. Maybe they're trying to tell us something? They tell us that Chicago was raised afoot because of swampland flooding. They tell us that they built a tunnel under the Chicago River. They tell us that there was a great fire, yet when we look at the old pictures of Chicago, it looks like a bomb went off. They tell us that Chicago's World Fair was built in less than 3 years. Even if this was done with plaster, this would have been a massive undertaking. Just look at these structures. Does this look temporary to you? These structures were not built in the 1800s. Chicago was an old world Tartarian city. It's even on Mercator's map from 1569, so why when you look up Shalaga does it say that it's only on a map in 1605? Very strange, right? And on the Mercator's map, there's a series of texts with Latin legends that actually talk about Tartaria. He mentions the Tartars almost 20 times on this map, and it's possible that they're the actual source for where Mercator actually got his info. He talks about a King John who had taken over the country of Tartaria, and basically in order to quell rebellion, he desired to disperse them into different countries, breaking their power of rebellion. But the Tartars were unwilling to give up their kinship, and of mutual association, they made a vow and fled to the northward where they seized a very vast country. So Mercator was well aware of the Tartarians, and if they had complete control of the east, it's not that far of a stretch to assume that they would attempt to pass the Bering Strait. If we look at Arzareth, which is the land beyond the Great River, far away from the habitation of man, in which the 10 tribes of Israel will dwell, observing the laws of Moses until the time of restoration, Arzareth was clearly in Tartaria, right by the Bering Strait. The Tartarians, then trying to flee whatever king or parasites were trying to take over, they crossed into America and began creating cities, one of them being Shalaga. In America, being the latest and most accurate description of the New World, we actually have a paragraph that speaks of this exact situation. Quote, "The other Tartary, which certainly was the first nursery, from hence the Americans were transplanted. Tartary, or Tatary, so called from the river Tatar, which runs through the country Mongol into the Northern Ocean, covers a great part of the terrestrial globe. The lesser Tartary takes out a considerable part of Europe, the greater is Asia." Now we must inquire from what Tartars the Americans extracted. Mornius, Postellus, Jean Bardus, Proterus, and others are of the opinion that the Tartars, which about the year 1228, under the command of Zingis Khan, overspread the earth like a deluge, where the successors to the 10 tribes of Israel, which were carried into captivity to Assyria by Salmanazar, the Tartary, or rather Tartaria, seems to be some testimony thereof, because it signifies in the Syrian or Hebrew tongue remnants or remainders, as seemingly because these Tartarians were remainders of the forementioned tribes. End quote. So you tell me, what do you think? Is Chicago the ancient mythical city of Shalaga? If we connect this with the Chicago World Fair, then it actually starts to make a lot more sense.
We are going into the Chicago Public Library's archives, locating information that will expose the tunnel systems located right under the city of Chicago. We know here on this channel that we are definitely not being told the full story regarding the tunnel systems all over the world, where they start off by telling us that the very first major tunnel project was dug under Lake Michigan to a water intake 2 miles out in 1864 to 1866. This is 29 years before the invention of the power tool. Digging massive tunnel systems under the lake, where it goes on to say that Chicago kept on digging away, creating thousands of miles of underground structures, where in my opinion, this is the beginning of the narrative for these tunnels that were created by the previous civilization. Thousands of miles of underground structures right underneath the city of Chicago, all according to public records in the Chicago Public Library. So let's go deeper. I was able to locate someone that has recently been inside the tunnel systems, and they shared what they saw with me. And now I'm going to share it all with you. We have seen these photos. They are on the internet, and here it is today. We can see that the railway is still there on the floor, looking exactly like we see in these photos, that we are told is from pre-1906. Over 120 years ago, I was sent other photos that I think you will all want to see. These tracks lead throughout the entire tunnel system, using them as transportation throughout the entire city. We have shown in episode 42 how these tunnel systems are in every single city in the world, how they connect all of the buildings together underground. These buildings are bigger than we can see. These tunnels were constructed by the Chicago Tunnel Company. Great name. And their history begins by letting us know that there were initial tunnels. Initial tunnels. Are these not the tunnels that were found? You tell me. Especially when they go on to say that the city of Chicago had no idea what to do with these tunnels, granting the newly formed Illinois Telephone and Telegraph Company the rights to construct utility tunnels under the streets of Chicago in 1899. So 1899, they start making tunnels for phone lines. I thought we were told by the Chicago Public Library in their archives that they were digging thousands of miles of tunnels decades before this. That's right. We were told this. And can you see that these tunnels were constructed by the previous civilization now? Are you able to see the truth that a previous civilization was here, much closer to our timeline than what we have been told? And all of their work has been left behind for us to see, for us to uncover, where the first 16 miles of tunnels had to be excavated to remove earth carefully and systematically from an area in order to find buried remains. And we are just getting started today. Is this another proof that there are buildings, structures, exactly like they say, right under our feet, underground? Thousands of miles of underground structures. What are we seeing today? I think we have unlocked something massive. I think they are very aware of what is under the ground at this point, that there are thousands of miles of underground structures right under the city of Chicago with maximum use of scarce real estate. Real estate underground. Thousands of miles of underground structures right under the city of Chicago. We now know that this is here. It is no longer a question of if the previous civilization's work is underground. It's now a matter of just finding them and exposing them to everybody in the world. Now, we may be right back to that point, showing how fast people forget things, showing that the majority of people, yet again, need to be shown these tunnels and understand what is below their feet.
Now, by September, they built a complete ramp. I'd like to see that happen today this fast. I'd like to see that happen today this fast. 40 feet of water. And there's another 2 floors below that. And there's another 2 floors below that.
These structures that we are unable to see now have been there for a very long time. Much longer than we have been told. And they are still here from the previous civilization. A civilization that was here only a few hundred years ago, in my opinion. Using electric locomotives in the underground tunnel. Very interesting. Naming this the Great Chicago Tunnel from 1908. Do you live here in this area today? Here's a public map, the one that they are showing us, from 1915, of the Chicago Tunnel system that sits right below your feet today. Remember, there are thousands of miles of tunnel systems in this city alone. So I'm going to ask you all a question. Do you really think that the tunnels are all done now? Do you think they haven't been expanded? Do you think that in the last 100 years, they just stopped making tunnels? Or do you think that Chicago has an even bigger, more in-depth underground system than we could ever imagine? Do you think every city might have this?
It's just an incredible hurricane. It has dropped 50 millibars in 10 hours. I apologize. This is just horrific.
All right, we got to think about getting out of here because this is going to be.
It's okay if it's
James, you all right, bud?
Those are for you to take out. Because I'm.
Drop in the comments below if you know what this is.
I did radiotomography with 30 watts, looking for oil in the ground. I found 26 oil wells over a 9-state area, and 100% of the time was accurate, with just 30 watts of power beaming straight into solid rock. HARP uses 1 billion watts, beamed straight into the ionosphere for experiments. Picture these strings on the piano as layers of the earth. Each one has its own frequency. What we used to do is beam radio waves into the ground, and it would vibrate any strings that were present in the ground. We might get a sound back like, and we'd say, that's natural gas. We might get a sound back like, and we say that's crude oil. We were able to identify each frequency. We accomplished this with just 30 watts of radio power. If you do this with a billion watts, the vibrations are so violent that the entire piano would shake. In fact, the whole house would shake. In fact, the vibrations could be so severe underground that could even cause an earthquake. What is happening in the ionosphere to allow this control to take place? Ionospheric heaters use this D layer in the ionosphere. Notice it only forms in the daytime when the sun is up. At nighttime, it disappears completely, and the ionosphere is 170 miles up, and the ionospheric heaters cannot control the jet stream with that being so high up. But in the daytime, it's only 30 miles up. So here's a look at the hardware that's actually working out in the Pacific to destroy hurricanes and push warm air into the Arctic. This is the SBX-1 main transmitter unit, and off on the left here, you can see it's not a little doll or Barbie figure, it's a grown man. This is a really huge, terrible piece of hardware. That giant flat plate array transmitter is placed inside of a fabric radome. And this is a picture during assembly inside the radome. Each one of these little wedges is a transmit-receive module which transmits about 200 watts. So there are 45,000 transmit-receive modules, and this antenna can detect an object the size of a baseball at a range of 2,500 miles. That is why I say this thing can project all that power into a pinpoint beam, totally computer controlled. The dome is 120-foot diameter. The power source is 6 3.6 megawatt generators for a total of almost 22 megawatts. And this hard platform has a tow ship to move it around, so that 22 megawatts is not actually designed to go into the engines. That is designed to go into the transmitter unit. Other U.S. Navy ships have powerful microwave transmitters. This is the U.S. Navy ship Howard O. Lorenzen. It looks small, but it's actually 534 feet long. Each phased array, the boxes on the top of the deck, is a phased array transmitter. Synthetic aperture radar, whatever you want to call it, weighs 250 tons. And there's a crew of 88 on board. This is a gigantic ionospheric heater, again, in a different format.
Because when you look at old maps, like this Mercator map from 1569, you see places like this, and when blown up, look like this. And this North Pole, where they show that desolate water, is no longer on the maps. Now, did this disappear, or are they just hiding what our compasses are drawn to in the center of our flat realm? Because not only do they have treaties like the North Pole Treaty that prevents any independent travel to this area, but they also spent millions of dollars and thousands of hours of manpower creating what they call the dew line that is supposedly supposed to detect if anyone is coming across to the United States. But in my opinion, it's to detect if anyone's going towards that center.
Above the Arctic Circle comes the first film report of a 3,000-mile radar warning network across the top of the world, the distant early warning line, the dew line. In camps like this, from Baffin Bay across the continent to the Bering Sea, 5,000 men are working. With steam-assisted pile drivers, they are forging an electronic chain to give North America 6 hours of warning of enemy attack.
And that creation of that dew line just coincidentally happened to come a few years after Admiral Richard Byrd took a flight to the North Pole and didn't report seeing ice and snow, but land areas consisting of mountains, forest, green vegetation, lakes and rivers, and even an animal resembling a mammoth. So not only do I think they're hiding things in the north, but I think they're hiding things in the south.
Bruno gets Melvin, bites his foot off, and then Gary grabs a big stick and starts jabs him in the throat, and then Bruno stumbles back and then takes off into the woods.
King Solomon and the Ocean Gate submersible. Was it an occult ritual, and are they getting ready to do it again? Ocean Gate co-founder Guillermo Solane is planning a trip to Dean's Blue Hole, one of the world's deepest ocean sinkholes. It is 202.997 meters, or 666 feet deep. Solane revealed his plan around the anniversary of the Titan submersible implosion, which killed 5 on board. It is an interesting name for the submersible that met a fitting demise because the Titans were imprisoned in a cavity beneath Tartarus. Also, why did the Titan look like Solomon's shamir? A warmer substance with the power to cut through or disintegrate stone, iron, or diamond. Solomon was said to have used it in the building of the first temple. In one story, the demon king Asmodeus told Solomon that the shamir was given by God to the angel of the sea, who then lost it and later committed suicide. This is how Solomon was able to obtain it. The shamir was meant to have always been wrapped in wool and stored in a container made of lead. Any other vessel would burst and disintegrate under the shamir's gaze. On board the Titan was Shahzada Dawood and his son Suleiman. Shahzada means prince or king's son. Suleiman translates to Solomon, and Dawood is the equivalent to the biblical David. the father of King Solomon.
Call me a conspiracy theorist. This sure looks like the Freemasonic sign of distress. He was sure throwing that up quite a bit. This would not be his first time presenting some type of occult symbolism. And he's proud to call himself Dark MAGA. You know, the Dark Witch or the Dark Sorcerer. And I guess it's just a coincidence that the highest level in the Church of Satan is MAGA. So, you know, Dark MAGA. The same guy who talks about AI summoning demons.
With artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. You know those stories where this guy with a pentagram and holy water, he's like, yeah, sure, you control the demon. Didn't work out.
Now, something else I found interesting is how he's wearing a shirt that says Occupy Mars. And if you did not know, Mars is named after the Roman god of war. And I wonder if it's just a coincidence how it was uttered over and over and over again at this rally to fight, fight, fight. I believe it is a coincidence that he is calling himself Dark MAGA. Now, to the exoteric, to the general population, MAGA means Make America Great Again. But to the esoteric, it means something else, like I showed you before, in my opinion. Now, how does it make sense at all if Elon is talking about Make America Great Again? I am Dark, Make America Great Again. What does that even mean, guys? What does that? It doesn't make any sense. But if you view MAGA as the Latin witch, he is telling you he is the Dark Witch. He is the Dark Sorcerer. And that makes perfect sense when you see everything else going on with the symbolism. I mean, do you really just think this is all just a coincidence?
In the wake of Sean Combs' recent arrest, a whirlwind of rumours have emerged, especially following the circulation of his arrest photo. The photo, which was released by news outlets and quickly shared across social media platforms, has sparked a heated online debate. The hacker shared a high-resolution version of the arrest photo on various platforms, pointing out several features that, according to them, do not align with Diddy's usual appearance.
Is a different species. They're not the human race. They're called Homo capensis. They have been on Earth together with humanity for before this ice age. I'm talking about a large skull. Some are in Peru, some are elongated, but in other places, they're just round like pumpkins, and the individuals.
History would dictate what happened in those ghettos. So elaborate.
These were traitors to their people who were helping because they thought they were going to save themselves. That's maybe why they did that, but it doesn't matter what their motives were. They were doing the work against their people. Now, think of this as an elaboration on a larger scale, and what we're dealing with actually is humanity and the elite, the secret societies, the Vatican. They're traitors to humanity because the one at the very core that's pulling the strings is a different species. They're not the human race. Called Homo capensis. They have been on Earth together with humanity for before this ice age. No, they're not humans. They are so distinct from humans that if they were to mate with humans, their offspring would not be fertile. They look just like human beings, except they have these big skulls.
They're saying it's elongated, two different skulls. Homo capensis. My apologies if I'm saying it wrong. What are they? They got all the knowledge. Of course they're going to have a high IQ. Look at that. Looks creepy. Damn, is that an actual skull of one?
Capensis, capataz de los reptilianos, controlan la granja humana desde la luna, por eso sufrimos de...
Where are these skulls located? This one still has hair on it. The audio is in Spanish, but they have some interesting slides we have to see. Like this. Look how it has hair on it. Reptiles? Now we can see that Egyptians have the elongated heads. It's the correlation. Says Dr. Aries has studied early humanoid remains discovered in a cave. By this, their large brains, their very descendants from Homo sapiens, their DNA is so different that if the two species mated, their offspring would be infertile, and we know this because their DNA was just tested. They have skulls all over the place because they had been on Earth with us, but after the Ice Age, they weren't that many of them, and so they've been hiding. And one of the places they have been hiding is the Vatican. That's why the Vatican are wearing those mitres or whatever, those cone heads. Turns out that they also want the high priest wore in the early beginnings of Judaism. Homo sapiens presumed humanoid with a large brain and an IQ of 180. It would have been maintained a world hegemony. I'm sorry, I don't know that. Ancient times. Researchers like Dr. Edwin Spencer have exposed archaeological evidence of these hominids with elongated skulls from around the world. Evidence from 50,000 years ago in South Africa, and even the people like Akhenaten, the Egyptian pharaoh.
Countries are responsible for repaying the debt. You've got the labor of the whole citizenry of that country. And what the bankers have done is they've taken the birth certificates of babies and they've estimated how many taxes those babies are going to be paying for in their lifetime. And they've taken that birth certificate and they've floated it on the capital markets and earned money on it.
So they took a shot at how much money they thought I would make in my lifetime because I had a social security number, right? And they basically rolled the dice on a capital market and made money off it. Is that what you're telling me?
A lot of money, that's right.
Of every citizen that had a social security number?
It gets much worse. Yes, not only that, but if you two citizens are married by a justice of the peace, they're not actually married. Because the person that the justice of peace is marrying is somebody with capital letters.
The straw man.
That's right. That's right. And without bothering to tell people, and what I just found out a month ago, and this, as a lawyer, was something which was, it shocked me to my very foundations. What I found out is that the courts that we are going to are not real courts. What the bankers have done is when you go to a bank and you sign your signature card, there's little fine print underneath that says subject to the bank rules. And if you read the bank rules, inside is a waiver of your right to a real court. You have waived your right to a real court. I found this out from, there's a fellow named George Mercier, who used to be the clerk of the courts in New York, and he wrote a paper called Invisible Contracts. So what I did, I sued the World Bank. I bought a World Bank bond, which meant that I was allowed to sue the World Bank, and I sued the World Bank because its financial statements are incorrect. I knew this because as a lawyer inside the World Bank, when I tried to correct a project that was where the board was being lied to, it was a cover-up, and I tried to correct that, I was punished. And the board was never told that they were lied to. Now that means that the internal controls are lacking. Any accountant that tries to correct the financial statements is going to be fired because there's no recourse as an employee. You're not allowed to sue the World Bank. What you're allowed to do is you're allowed to go to an internal tribunal called the Administrative Tribunal. The judges on that tribunal are actually awarded arbitration contracts by another branch of the World Bank called MIGA, the Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency, and also ICSID, the International Center for the Settlement of Investment Disputes. They're given very, very lucrative arbitration contracts. So when you're an employee who's trying to correct the records inside the World Bank that are incorrect, you go to a kangaroo court. And so, but because I was a lawyer inside the World Bank, I knew if I bought a World Bank bond, I could sue the World Bank in the real courts. And that's what I did. And I also sued the World Bank's accounting firm, KPMG. And then I went to all of the regulatory agencies. And I went to all the attorneys general because they were required to protect their citizenry from inaccurate financial statements of an issuer on the capital markets. So I used all the securities laws. And very strange things happened with that case. And finally, all of the executive directors and the board of governors, that's the 188 member countries, settled my lawsuit. And the court refused to recognize the settlement. Now I was astonished. How could that happen? That was in 2012. And so it was kind of like a mystery novel to find out how this could have happened. And now I found out what it is those are not real judges. They're not real courts. And what I did was I went and I spoke to the clerk of the court, and I told them about this study that George Mercier had written about the invisible contracts. And I said, how are we going to get this straightened out? And the clerk said, I'd like you to file another document in the court. So I did. Actually, I filed it in the district court and also in the Court of Appeals. And I found out on the 5th of January that the judge, Judge Boasberg, had written a memorandum opinion ignoring the issue that I had raised. Now that's fraud.
Absolutely.
So I went back to the court.
Absolutely.
I went to the chief judge in the district court, Judge Roberts, and I asked him what he was going to do to correct that situation. And he said, well, I'm not going to do anything. So I then tried to figure out what could I do. Well, these judges that are not sitting in real courts have security bonds issued by insurance companies, surety bonds. So I went back to the Senate Judiciary Committee, and I asked them to tell me who the insurance company was so I could file for damages.
Wow.
Yes?
Yes. That cover these judges, is what you're saying.
That's where
they're
we are.
covered. Oh, that's where we are right now.
I think we want to cover who these culprits are.
Okay.
All right? It's true. The Rothschilds are involved, but they're by far not the most important players. You've got King Juan Carlos. He's the head of the Farnese Continuum. 3 in 1. He's a high-level knight of the Equestrian Order of the Holy Sepulchre of Jerusalem, Sacred Military Constantinian Order of St. George, and he's a Knight of Malta, all rolled into one. And then don't forget the Prince of Naples, Vittorio Emanuele IV. He tries to claim the title of King of Jerusalem. Then, of course, you've got to mention the Pallavicinis. And don't forget Prince Bernard of Lippe-Biesterfeld, and he's married to Beatrix Wilhelmina Armgard, Princess von Oranien-Nassau. So there are a lot of players here, and they thought nobody would find out about them, and they thought they would continue the same kind of shenanigans that they've been pulling for centuries. They didn't count on the fact that humanity was onto them, and their game is up. All the whistleblowers in the world are pooling their resources, trying to sort out what's going on. And so one of the whistleblowers is Michael O'Bannon. He's with a retired military officer, I believe, with the Marines. He wrote a book, and he said that there were 2 ways for the Jesuits to win. One was for them to remain secret. Guess what? They're not secret anymore. And the other way was for the U.S. military to support the Jesuits. Well, he wrote that the U.S. military, the Russian military, and the Chinese military are all working together, and they are bound to determine that we're not going to have a bankster's World War III this time around. Humanity is right on target to take back our world. But I can tell you in excruciating detail from how Ronald Reagan recognized the Jesuits, although they had been banished after the murder of Lincoln, because Lincoln was also trying to have honest money. He had the greenbacks right during the Civil War. He didn't want to pay the exorbitant interest that the bankers were going to charge to finance the Civil War. And the Vatican and the Jesuits were behind the Civil War and manipulating that to keep the United States from being strong.
So you mean to tell me the Revolutionary War, as well as the Civil War, it wasn't exactly what we learned about in history?
That's exactly what I'm saying. So remember when Benjamin Franklin went off to Paris and negotiated the Treaty of Paris? Well, since when, if you win the war, are you ending up paying reparations, which is what the Treaty of Paris was all about? And then remember when our capital was burned down in 1812? Again, the United States was trying to be independent from the United Kingdom, and they were having none of that. No, the lawyers have been very clever in disguising all of this. The Jesuits have been very, very clever in concealing what it is that they've been up to. So that's why people, when they hear about this, their first reaction is to be dismissive, because they cannot believe that something this big can have been kept secret for this long. But I can tell you it's true. The mainstream media is owned and controlled by the Jesuits, and they own the financial companies. People think that all the banks are separate. It turns out they're one big conglomerate. And this is easy, actually, to document, because the Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich, Switzerland, 3 mathematicians did a very good study and can show that all of the banks that people think are separate have the same exact directors that go from one board of directors to the other. So the banks are all interconnected. That's how come you had the LIBOR scandal. There's an incredible amount of insider trading. The Securities and Exchange Commission is completely bought out. What happened with Bernie Madoff was not one-off.
We're about to have an AI ship with over 10,000 NVIDIA GPUs floating in the ocean, dedicated to deploying the next generation of large-scale AI machine learning. The Blue Sea Frontier Compute Cluster, BSFCC, proposed by Dell Complex. Massive mega supercomputers that sit in international waters and are free of any country's laws regarding AI. Just as countries are beginning to enact new regulations for controlling AI as they claim for your own safety. These platforms will come equipped with 10,000 NVIDIA H100 GPUs worth around $500 million. They'll be cooled using deep sea currents and powered by solar, steam, and gas turbines. Each ship will also come with its own military force and also be considered a sovereign state, sort of like its own country when floating in the ocean, and governed by their own charter, a document that outlines the rights of residents and visitors. Although the company officially tweeted that they're really doing this, recent speculation has led to believe these are just hopeful dreams. But everything this project mentions is technically true and fully doable. It just might be a while before we see these lawless AI pirate nations arise in the seas.
We're looking at a cell-sized micro-robot. These micro-robots, made of electronic circuits coupled to minute particles, are so small that they can swim in between blood vessels. Researchers at MIT have created what may be the smallest robots yet. These bots can sense their environment, store data, and even carry out computational tasks. These robots, which are about the size of a human egg cell, consist of tiny electronic circuits that have been 3D printed and react to electronic or magnetic signals. These tiny robots are self-powered and require no external power source or even internal batteries. They can be guided into areas of the body that standard drugs cannot reach, adding a whole new level to drug delivery systems. It may be possible now using this delivery method to bring drugs past the blood-brain barrier.
Scientists have just confirmed the existence of plasmoids. These self-illuminating plasma-like UAPs have multiple shapes and sizes. They're attracted to electromagnetic activity and have been filmed diving into the ocean, as well as hovering near space shuttles and satellites. They have explosive properties, negatively affect electronics and mental activity, possibly inducing hallucinations of alien abductions. Scientists suspect that they are sentient and represent a fourth domain of life. After 14 years of extensive research, it is a conclusion that so-called unidentified flying objects that have been seen in our atmosphere are not spaceships from another planet, but are groups and masses of living organisms that are much a part of our atmosphere and space as the life we find in the oceans. It has been hypothesized that dusty plasmas in the thermosphere may have incorporated all the necessary elements for the synthesis of RNA leading to DNA and thus life.
Mountain Dew, once again, does not miss. If you guys remember, I tweeted this a while back showing all the different flavors that correlated with different events. Code Red with 9/11, Maui Burst with Maui Fires, Baja Blast with Hurricane Hillary, Star Spangled Splash with the Francis Scott Key Bridge, and Pitch Black with the IT blackout. Now, I've asked people who dealt with hurricanes all the time who live in the area, and they said they've never seen a hurricane pick up speed as it heads towards land. Oh, but that's just tip of the iceberg. The question is, can they control the weather? I mean, I don't know for sure, but here's a US patent that was filed in 2001 and made public in 2003, so there's that. Now again, I'm not making any claims here, but here's another article by the New York Times posted back in 1972 saying rainmaking is used as a weapon by the US. I'm not saying it, that's the New York Times there. Now would you look at that? So Mountain Dew releases a new flavor called Infinite Swirl that just released this past summer. I mean, they gotta be doing it for entertainment purposes only, but a swirl is what a hurricane does, like Helene, and now you have Milton and even another one after Milton, which seems like an infinite amount of swirls. Now, what cities are in Florida? Well, you have Tampa that wants to become a 15-minute city through something called Tampa Moves, a citywide mobile plan that aims to reduce the average commute time to 15 minutes or less. The plan also seeks to have half of all commuters walk, bike, or take public transit. They even plan a downtown Tampa renovation, a $3 billion joint venture between the Tampa Bay Lightning owner, Jeff Finnick, and good old Billy Gates. And they already have 70 sensors with plans to put in more in high crime areas to show that they're leveraging technology to turn Tampa into a smart city. Just like Maui. They even have an entire website dedicated to it that says Smart Cities Alliance Tampa Bay.
They're taking out everything that is not African. Everything that can't grow an afro must go. Plus, they're coming to get the Hebrews. These are their brothers. Through blood. You understand me? So they begin to take these Assyrians, they begin to take them out. All the way up to what we call Lebanon. And when Taraka gets up to this region, he realizes, damn, his troops start talking about seeing these giants, these hairy giants, half men, half beasts, that they're fighting up in these mountains, Assyria. Some 10 feet tall, smell so bad you can smell them downwind a half a mile away. He tells to who? To build a wall. You think the Great Wall of China was mighty? They built this wall knowing that this wall could block these beasts from ever entering the Holy Lands again. They would have to take the Arabian Desert. So the legend goes.
Have you ever seen the video of actress Anne Hesh being wheeled to an ambulance after her deadly car crash? That's right, I said deadly car crash. Now I want you to remember that video as I show you some things. And keep in mind some of my other videos where I talk about how certain people, they tell us, are gone. aren't really gone.
And Haitia's cause of death has been revealed. The actress died on Friday following her fiery car crash. The LA County Coroner's Office confirms the details to ET.
I would say to anybody, go for what you feel truthfully in your life and you will be rewarded a millionfold.
Following the crash, we learned Ann suffered a severe brain injury, significant burns, and lung damage.
A major brain injury, significant burns, and lung damage.
She was trying to get up.
She just looks like maybe she got a little claustrophobic. This is my favorite part, though.
I would say to anybody, go for what you feel truthfully in your life and you will be rewarded.
Truthfully must have a different meaning to these people and to me, but I don't know, maybe that's just me. But of course, it's all for entertainment purposes. I know this is probably some sort of rigor mortis reflex in that she truly did die in that accident. Entertainment only, of course, and I'm surprised that actually isn't 33. This is the video some of you have been waiting for almost 30 years, because I'm about to reveal the answers you've been looking for. Let me start this video where I usually end it though, because everything in it is purely entertainment. I know what happened to Tupac is what they told us in 1996, just for entertainment purposes. So since we know this is for entertainment only, let's pretend for a minute that Tupac didn't die. I wonder what he would look like 30 years later. To me, he looks an awful lot like Akil the MC. An awful lot like the former member of Jurassic 5. So much so that when you do the symmetry test, it comes out to be a perfect match. But not only is it a perfect match, he literally says he is Tupac. And I think some people just think he's joking around, but I'm going to give you evidence in a minute that he's not joking. Because I found the smoking gun that will show you evidence that this is more than just a symmetrical coincidence. But let's first listen to what he has to say.
I seen somebody said Tupac is coming back this year and stuff. Well, I've been back,
Now he says it so dead seriously and just bluntly and matter-of-factly that I think most people just think it's for funsies. But check this out. Now remember, this is for entertainment purposes only, and this means nothing. Let's look at that dot, and that dot, and that dot, and that dot, and let's just see who these belong to. I'm so anxious. I wonder who they could be. Oh, Tupac. Okay. Oh, Akil the MC. How magically interesting and coincidental. But like I said, this is for entertainment purposes only. I know that these two are not the same people. They just look so much alike and have symmetrical faces because we all have doppelgangers. And somewhere in the world, there's someone that looks just like you. Because Tupac died 28 years ago, and they would never, ever deceive us or create fake gang wars to pin people against each other. Nope. Entertainment only.
Federal Directive 5240.01. This is a recent US Department of Defense directive that allows the military to assist local law enforcement in emergencies. This includes situations where lives are at risk. What stands out here is the provision that could allow for the use of lethal force.
And essentially this directive is giving the DoD the approval to utilize assets, lethal assets, while assisting civilian law enforcement in engagements against civilian individuals or civilian groups.
About 10 minutes later, we found out they weren't coming back. They had been pulled out for security reasons. And they're the only ones that have the dogs. FEMA left for security reasons with their dog. And now we brought in we walked in some New York National Guard. I'm hoping they can find it, but they don't have a dog. The only cadaver dogs that I've seen so far today are with FEMA. And I will tell you, the way that woman talked to me, I've been down here in Texas, I've been here in North Carolina, I've met the nicest people. That was the first rude, disrespectful, condescending person I met. She was from FEMA, and she wouldn't get this person out. And now she's going for security reasons.
Wouldn't it be crazy if FEMA was making another series of terrible decisions in North Carolina? This is J. Robert Watson. He is a North Carolina business owner. He owns a business called The Portal. He's been helping FEMA with distribution of food that has been sent by companies. You can see it in the background there. Don't worry, they're not going to give that food to the people, apparently. They say it doesn't meet health requirements. So, on top of that, Jay says that they have commandeered his business at this point and that his lease has been terminated. He received correspondence over the weekend letting him know. This is a guy who's been doing everything he can to help the community, by the way. So,
as a matter of fact, we just emailed you your lease termination paperwork.
They have commandeered his business at this point, and that his lease has been terminated.
Warm beds, square meals, homeless women.
I got a bad feeling about this, Blue.
Why are you outside during this entire hurricane?
Well, I chose not to go inside yesterday because Salvation Army and Russian Wind's homeless shelter, where they were accepting people, were caught killing everybody that was in there.
I'm sorry. Right. Okay. All right. So clearly you're homeless, and there are some challenges that you face.
He's trying to flip that? Oh, this is crazy.
But what I'm trying to say is that if it's going to cause distress, and it depends what context you use.
So you're.
Why you would say that to someone.
So you're the police telling me that saying God bless you can cause someone distress?
Okay, but if you were to say that to someone who, for example, is a Muslim, and if you're going into their face and then saying that to them, knowing that they have their own beliefs, then yes, that is.
And you work for the police?
Yeah, of course.
So the police are saying that it's a crime to say God bless you to someone?
Sure, you wouldn't get arrested if it wasn't causing distress to other people.
So you're saying, for legal purposes, that it's a crime?
If it's causing distress, then yeah.
What's your name, please?
Tina.
Nadina what?
We don't give our surnames, but I've got my shoulder number.
Can we have your shoulder number, please?
Of course. 71224.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And
Listen to this.
We're here at the Four Courts in Dublin, and Enoch Burke has just been returned back to Mountjoy Prison for refusing to endorse.
You heard that right. That was a teacher who's been under arrest for over a year. You want to know what his crime is? Refusing to use the pronouns they, them. That's the crime. Over a year in jail.
He has a clone. Apparently there's this thing spreading around where people are saying that the person that's actually in jail is not the real Diddy.
Not Diddy.
Let me catch you up to speed. This is a real photo of Diddy. Notice the markings on his face. They're very prominent, and they are from the real Diddy. However, in this mugshot right here, you do not see these markings at all. So people are claiming that whoever is in jail, allegedly, supposedly, is not the real Diddy. This photo always terrified me. There's just something off about this photo. To make matters even more weird, Diddy's private jet is still flying around as we speak and making stops in various locations around the world. Just a few days ago, his private jet was spotted at Auckland Airport, a spot normally reserved for private aircraft. This is from the account Celebrity Jets. They're actually tracking P. Diddy's private jet flight path, and this is when it was landing at New Zealand. And 2 days ago, it was at Honolulu, Hawaii.
Through music, you hypnotize people, and when you get them at their weakest point, you can preach into their subconscious what we want to say.
You used to work at a secret Starbucks, is that right?
Yeah, there is a Starbucks that is like above reserve, like a Starbucks no one's ever heard of or been to. All right. Have you ever wondered while driving in Los Angeles, how come you've never seen like Will Smith stuck in traffic on the 405?
Yeah.
I've never seen a 1%er just in their car stuck in traffic.
Why is that?
That's because there's a series of intricate tunnels underneath Los Angeles known as the Actorbahn. I'm not kidding. Like, they get access points to move through the city without ever having to be in traffic. You can come up in LAX, you can pop up at Dodger Stadium. Underneath there in those tunnels is Starbuckses set up at different locations to allow them to get coffees while they're driving. All of them. Seinfeld.
You've
Oprah,
seen Seinfeld down there?
Bono. I've seen Seinfeld down there. Dude, almond milk latte, 2 shots.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is he a good tipper?
They don't have to pay.
So this has been underneath Los Angeles for a few years now? I mean, how long has this been there for?
I mean, it predates me. It seems like the city was built on top of it. So, I mean, I think this goes all the way back to the 20s.
This is a video from the Graham Norton show when Liam Payne had an interview and he started talking about P. Diddy and Jay-Z. Now, specifically in this video, there is something going on that's suspicious with the hosts of the show, especially when he mentions Jay-Z. Watch their hands. Their hand movements are to the second exactly the same. There's almost a tap on the leg to Graham Norton, and then their hands are put together, put on their laps. It's just strange. Watch this.
Sat there just looking in P. Diddy's eyes like, when is this going to end? The worst of it happened. The worst of it happened. There was a whole thing with Jay-Z and I went to lean in to speak to him. But you can't lean in to speak to Jay-Z. You're not allowed to lean in. And his bodyguard just like shoved me like this, and I went flying in. And his bodyguard just like shoved me like this, and I went flying.
As soon as he mentioned Jay-Z, they did that. They looked away, they put their hands together and put it in their lap. That's weird. Am I the only one? Surely not. Can you see it?
Cup and the Euro Cup, they're all big harvesting exercises. All sport is fixed. Yeah. Every single sport is fixed. on every level. They would never allow it to be, because they are fear-based parasitic mentality. They will not allow two teams or two people or two fighters to go at it unless they controlled both of them under any circumstance. It's been going on too long now. It's really, really been going on so long that and people are not realizing it's so in your face. It's so clearly in your face, and that people are still not realizing that it's going on. Becoming acceptable on television, that they're inverting sexuality, that they're emasculating men, that they're masculizing females. I mean, it's so blatantly obvious, and it disgusts me that people are still not paying attention to it.
Right. Yeah, you're bringing what?
Perhaps that's where our new God will come from.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Yeah, I wish that was funny. Yeah, okay, so I want to talk to you about alignment.
That was funny.
Memphis, where our new god will come from. As we see here, Elon's AI supercomputer project is in Memphis, Tennessee. And as you heard from Elon himself, how Memphis was the capital of ancient Egypt. And now the city of Memphis had several other names, including the meaning of the house of the spirit of Ptah. Now you may be asking, who is the spirit of Ptah? Well, apparently this was the ancient Egyptian god of creation, arts, crafts, and trades. He was also considered the architect of the universe. Ptah was the chief deity of Memphis. And we can see here, according to the legend, Memphis was the first capital of United Egypt. Makes me think of the Tower of Babel, where everybody was united. Oh yeah, a nice little hand sign there, Elon. So you're telling me the guy who wants to implant a chip into your brain and tie your consciousness with AI, who also says that AI is summoning a demon.
Artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. You know those stories where there's the guy with the pentagram and the holy water, and he's like, yeah, sure, you can control the demon.
How our new god will come out of this artificial intelligence, which again is coming out of Memphis, which he makes a point to tie in how Memphis is originally from ancient Egypt, while throwing up the hand sign. Nothing to see here, guys. I'm sure it's just a coincidence that the Tesla logo upside down looks like a witch's hat. I'm sure that's just me looking too far into it. Now, this interview that Jordan Peterson had with Elon Musk blew my mind. It confirmed everything that I was suspecting with Elon, but I do not trust that guy at all.
The secret is right there. You want to know what it is? I'm going to tell you what it is. Look real close at these snakes. They can be any variation from 1 to 12, but this one is 7, and it's 7 for a very important reason. Look at this thing. Now, those little guys look like that big circle up there. Why is that? There's 7 colors in the visible light spectrum. That's your Roy G. Biv. There's 7 octaves in music. This is a wave phenomenon. Now look close at that. Does it look like the Mayan calendar? Does it look like a rose window? Maybe it should, because we can decode all of these with cymatics. Now that particular one is a 21-fold cymatic from Angkor Wat. Let's look at another one. This one is a 6 positive or a 12-fold cymatic from Neak Temple. I'm probably butchering that. Cymatics is how we visualize tones in music through water. Each tone has a glyph. The ancients had a very special way of calculating this, and I feel like you should know it.
When you look at it, you might say, fake Jesus, real Jesus. When I look at this, I see a different time period. The times that blacks ruled, the times that whites ruled. I want you to look at this coin with a sharp eye. The being in the middle looks like a sheep man with his arm around 2 women. Family, what is that between his leg? Is that the sheep man's tail? Notice the lady to the right holding the compass. The Masonic order guards this secret. Do the high churches bow to the reptilian god? I've heard many Christians say in the name of the Father, but never say the name. This coin bears the name and the snake. Do you see the God name over the city? Notice the buildings and towers and the boats. Here is the same coin with the building towers and boats. The God name is in the UFO. Family, these people that hide and gain their power through religion come from one common place in the world, Italy. Check out this painting. The black king and queen are fighting tall, hairy, pale men. In this picture, the tall, hairy, pale man is kidnapping a woman. She is saved by a white man, hairy, pale man. Do you know what this is telling me? Black people and white people have the same enemy, the pale, hairy man. It gets deeper, family. The hairy beasts have assumed the identity of white people. Think about it. Who claims to be reptilian? Family, not all white people are the same. It's quite possible a white woman was captured and used as a mating vessel. Now the beast is less hairy and looks more human. The people who attacked America was not fully human. Do you see the ships on the coin? What bloodline family enslaved America? These ships and that UFO are the adversaries that fought and conquered America. Academia left the spaceship out. Family, what past are these coins speaking of? I want you to look at this spaceship on this picture. If you notice, it looks just like the ship on the coin. Look at the holes in the center. Family, the aliens or angels mingle with our women in the past. Check out the flower-shaped design under the ship. Remember that image. Here is the same ship, family, in a 17th century painting with that flower-shaped bottom. At this point, I'm convinced there is a history that has been blocked by priests, kings, and governments. In the movie Independence Day, we fought that ship, but these coins say we already fought that ship. The arrows are missiles. In this picture, you have Noah in the biblical flood drawn in a manner that doesn't fit the image of this time. It reads a UFO in 1665. I don't think this was drawn to create folklore. The picture's telling you the name of the beings in the ship. It's also telling you the hands that flood the world. Is that Noah's hand in the ark, offering first fruits and prayers? Look at the rays underneath the ship, family. They are saying these ships caused the flood. The Bible has led us all to think the creator of all things flooded the world. History is telling me beings with greater technology defeated us with water. My question is, when was this mud flood event? Could this have happened 500 to 600 years ago? If the church is your historian, then it happened 4,000 years ago. Family, there is proof of a most recent flood. This is a city on the roof of a building. The last picture showed hands and spaceships causing the flood. Could this building below be a part of that time period? This building, even though it's in mud, does look modern. I don't think it's older than Egypt. Did God flood the world, or did outer physical beings flood the world? I don't know if I can give you 100% proof aliens or outer beings flooded our plains, but what I can give you is evidence to consider. I want you to remember something. There is a constant theme of hands pointing down from the clouds, ordering the people's death. This is where things become deeply wrapped in symbolism. When you look at the hands pouring water from the clouds, do you think this is the Most High? Those ships in the background allow me to think there is a hand manipulating the weather. Just like our chemtrail problem is by man's hand manipulating the weather. Take a look at these spaceships really good. Do you notice the lines coming down from underneath the ships? Now look at the ship on the painting. It has the same light rays as those other ships. The only difference is there is a being teleported to the ground. In this picture, will there be warriors or diplomats teleported to the ground? Family, this coin is showing you the beings who are flying the ship. It is not the Most High. It is some other beings from another place with greater technology. I want you to look at this name. Just because you see it in the sky doesn't mean it's the Most High's name. In the Bible, people say in the name of the Father, but they never say the name. Is this the Father's name? Is this Allah's true name? Think about it, family. Is this where our religion come from? We fought and lost a war because the enemy flooded us out? Is Nana the mythical Satan? I want you to look at this painting right here. It shows what could be a first encounter moment. I see a spaceship teleporting a being to the ground so it could talk to the people. Here is a Bible version of that painting. There is a fire cloud over the camp with a voice talking to the people. Family, which one is true and which one is false? It's not clouds over Israel's camp. It is a ship with outer beings over Israel's camp. Family, what does it look like when the Lord goes forward and fights for Israel? The religious mind is trained to believe a terrible hailstorm killed their enemies. Here's the truth, family. This entity has caused kingdoms to rise and fall for thousands of years. They are responsible for the flood. In the Bible, Israel was in the grace of this entity because they were willing to do the sacrifice, just like our governments do today. Let's read the requirements of this space entity posing as the Most High. And surely your blood and your lives will I require. At the hand of every beast will I require it, and at the hand of man. At the hand of every man's brother will I require the life of man. If you notice, family, the beings use the word require. That sounds like a contract. These beings require the life of man and his children. You got to understand, the biblical leaders made a covenant with this entity, and the world leaders maintain this covenant to this day. Look at the date under the ark. It says I-588. This covenant isn't that old. Check out this picture. Is it possible this event happened like you see? On the ground, there's a dark figure using magic against a UFO. and in the sky there's an angel blowing a trumpet at the UFO. This UFO is above a city on fire. It looks like it's raining blood from the ship. Family, can magic and prayers defeat the UFO? This coin relates to the last picture. There's 3 people trying to fight something in a cloud with primitive weapons. The Yahweh name is in the cloud. The 3 men are wounded. Is that blood falling on top of them, just like the first picture? Are the buildings burning below because of the UFO? Just like the last picture, the UFO is above the city, and on top of the airship it says Yahweh, just like the Bible. Family, is it possible the Yahweh name in the ship and the Yahweh name on this coin is related? Is the Yahweh harming people, causing destruction and blood to pour? Is this the Yahweh? Can magic, prayers, and arrows defeat a being in a UFO? I thought the angels was on the side of the Yah. Check out this coin dated I-605 or 1605. At the top of the coin is the Yahweh cloud. Below there's a man riding some kind of fish. This coin translates as glory, terror at sea. Does the Yahweh come from the sea? Check out this coin. It says US 500 and the date says J783. Family, is it possible America existed in 783? If we want the answer, we need to break down the letter J. It reads, until the year 1524, there was no letter J in the alphabet. Here is the problem with the J date. Justinian I, Roman Emperor, 527-565. His name carries the J 1,000 years before 1524. His name was spelled with an I 1,000 years before the 1500s. They added 1,000 years. Family, do you think 1,000 years added to the calendar was the only problem? Is this Jesus? Or is this Justin? Whitewash. What does the J stand for on the coin? Some say Jesus, but here's the truth. It stands for Justin. His name is on the coin, Justitia. This coin says I-736. It is also Justin's name before they used the J. Here is the real question. Did Rome rule first America in 783? Was Rome originally in America or Italy? These entities in these ships also destroyed Rome with water, possibly around the late 400s. Here are the pillars of Rome buried in mud. This created event that we call the mud flood affected the world. Family, here is a Roman house in America during the 700s, not the 1700s. Was there 2 Americas? One destroyed by the alien god being, the second resurrected by the bloodline families. Check out the date on the coin. Is it 1754 or I-754? These coins are symbolically telling you the world was conquered by water and there is a crowned being ruling the world. All 3 coins are related. They show the world conquered by water. Check out this coin. It says US 5. This coin represents First America, Old America. On the right side of the coin, it shows the glowing eye, signaling the alien being ruling over First America. Look at the date on the coin. It says J783. Family, was First America in 783? Did it add 1,000 years, creating Second America, 1776? I want you to look at this picture. It says leveling the streets in Seattle. What year do you think this happened? Look to the bottom right. It says Seattle 611. Is that the date, family? Check out this next picture. It says the remains of Denny Hill. When was this event? Look at the bottom. It says Seattle 620. Let's look at a third photo, family. This picture looks digitally remastered. Look at the date on the picture. It says October 1909. Did they add 1,000 years so they could hide First America? Family, this picture shows a first American city being destroyed by the same beings that destroyed the Mayans and the Egyptians. In 1607 or 607, when First America existed, Chicago was called Shalaga. Family, notice the word Nova written on the map. Nova is also on the coin. There was 2 Americas. We don't remember the first one. First America was destroyed by alien beings. Second America was resurrected by the bloodline families. What's good, family? The gods of the Bible are alien with hybrid children. Check out this coin. On the right, you have a name inside of a bright light, and on the left, you have a snake. These symbols tell me this being whose name was in the light is a reptilian. Do you see the name that's on the coin? ICOB 1. The I became a J. Is that Jacob the First? What God did Jacob wrestle with? On this coin, there is the name in the cloud, with a man and a woman shaking their hand, agreeing to call this alien being God. On the coin, it reads Constantinia Fide. What does Fide mean, family? Fide means by faith. Look at the bottom right. It says religious. They agreed to accept this name in the bright cloud as God. Notice the towers under the name. The God of the Bible and of the world is a reptilian in a spaceship. The alien God of the Bible is a jealous God. For you shall worship no other God, for the Lord, whose name is jealousy, is a jealous God. He takes his vengeance on all who oppose him. Family, this is the God over the Mayans, the gods over the Egyptians, and also the gods over us. The Most High is not a reptilian being living in a ship. The one thing the Mayans, Egyptian, and us have in common is we were destroyed by what we praised. All three civilizations was destroyed because we stopped the sacrificing. And surely the blood of your lives will I require. And surely your blood of your lives will I require. The world was destroyed because we stopped feeding them. Check out this coin. Do you see the symbol of the reptilian being in the sky? The armies below is a representation of kings and governments it has raised to fight its war on earth. Do you see the word vor on the coin? V-O-R-E. This is what they want. Vor, Latin, related to eating. Vorophilia, typically erotic desire or sexual fantasy, to consume or to consume another. Family. When the world stopped giving its blood, the world was flooded. When the Egyptians stopped giving its blood, the civilization was destroyed. Family. The alien is going to reveal itself to us. Is that because we stopped the sacrifices? The alien God looks like us. Symbolism. There is no book or source that's going to reveal the truth without some form of exaggeration. This image is truth and symbolism at the same time. Family, the truth doesn't always come in writings. This image shows an alien being in a fiery eye with a man bowing underneath it. The symbolism we see are true. The all-seeing eye is an alien being in a bright flying ship governing the world. The highest level of Christianity doesn't call on the Most High. You will learn this through symbolism, the eye with the glow. You see the man on his knees? We have never stood up. Every time we rise throughout history, we fall. When did we fall, family? Was it 1588 or 588? A lot of people are Kemet at heart, Egypt at heart. In this image, the Egyptians are bowing to the Watcher, which is an alien being living in a ship. This is the gods of the Bible, gods of Egypt, and Allah. I want you to look at this flying ship. Notice the holes under the ring of the ship. The alien god being has been ruling from above, and with the help of man, they rule below. What allows them to rule below, family? Bloodlines. Let me read a verse. His winnowing fork is in his hand to clear the threshing floor and to gather his wheat into the barn, but he will burn up the chaff with unquenchable fire. If you think this verse was about food, then watch this. You see, family, we are the wheat and they are the chaff. The wheat mingled with the chaff. This is how you get the 13 bloodlines. Family, this is how aliens rule below. They marry into human royalty. Now hybrids sit on the throne. You see the dove in the picture? Is that Jesus handing the crown to a hybrid? Family, those who are in government, who champion depopulation, are not fully human. The bloodlines took over after the mud flood event.